And it's this comment right here that says a whole lot about the picture a lot of folks are missing. So, quick recap. In the wake of the death of Nolan Wells, I shared a story about a time when my nephew contacted me because he needed advice about how to handle a situation with a teenage girl from his school who'd invited him over to her home. His parents were out of town, and I was auntie on duty. The minute I found out that he'd received this invitation when her parents were not at home, I told him that he couldn't go. I also told him a story about a high school boy who I knew who'd made the wrong decision, and that decision landed him in prison. In that story, I talked about some of the lessons that all parents teach all children. But then I highlighted the fact that there are lessons that parents have to specifically teach their sons, and Black parents specifically have to teach their Black sons. Because in both stories, the young ladies in question happen to be white. And in both stories, both boys in question happen to be Black. I received a lot of different commentary, and I responded to some of it, particularly the comments from white individuals who took exception to the fact that I mentioned the ethnicities of the children involved. They had no issue with the fact that I said these were the lessons parents needed to teach their sons, as if girls can't be accused of committing crimes that they have not. They had issue with the mere mention of race. There were also comments that I deleted, didn't respond to at all, because they had no place in the comments of my platform. I responded to the comments made by people pretending as if they couldn't understand why race was a factor, because I know that there are actually people who needed to see my response in order to question their own way of thinking on the subject, because they've had the privilege of not even having to consider the disproportionate ways in which Black and brown boys are handled in situations like this. But the comments that I deleted and disregarded were about whether Black boys and white girls, or Black girls and white boys, should even be involved in relationships with one another at all. I'm glad that I saw this particular comment, because it gave me an opportunity to make where I stand very clear. I don't tell anybody who to love, Black, white, Hispanic, or otherwise, straight, gay, or otherwise. I have no position on who anyone else loves. I pray that everyone finds love that feeds their soul. I pray that everyone finds a love that brings them closer to the best version of themselves, without regard to race, religion, or gender, and that they don't seek anyone else's permission or approval for that love. As a parent, though, I caution my own Black children to wait until they have a better understanding of who they are, of how the world around them works, of what they are facing in the world, before they further complicate something that's already complicated enough. Interracial relationships aren't the issue in my household. It's the complexities of relationships in general that I've always cautioned my children about, with the hope that, like everything else, they will exercise wisdom before they stray away from the rivers and lakes that they're used to, whether that be consuming alcohol, before they've reached the age of majority, engage in sexual activity, before they've entered the season of life for which God intended it, and before they explore dating individuals who are members of communities that they don't belong to. Because those complexities come with their own risks in the same ways that underage drinking, premarital sex, and all other life experiences that are not approached with caution, information, and care can lead to some very predictable negative outcomes. So can adding layers of complexity to developing romantic relationships with people who operate in worlds that are very different from yours before you've had an opportunity to fully know yourself, what you bring to the table, what your needs are, and how best to limit risks for yourself and those you date. My children are encouraged to date whomever they choose, but to be aware of the risks associated with those choices, the pitfalls, the hurdles, the adversities, and the challenges, and to be clear about what those choices will require of them and what they may cost them. And that is the reality of the world we live in, and how we each must navigate being in relationship in a world where the morals, values, rules, and laws are not equally applied to all.